use the dollar? What country were you at? Mexico, what they use? Pesos. Japan. The yen. England. The pound. Naira where? Nigeria. Okay, good. France. The euro in France, if it makes it, right? The euro in Germany. Where else? Italy. The lira. The guilder, right? What's in Haiti? Goods. Goods. Right? Any other country?
Saudi Arabia.
And they have
Dinars.
the who?
Dinars.
Okay, all right, okay. So in all these kingdoms, in all these countries, in all these places, they have their own currency. Now, depending upon how their currency or what their currency is linked to is how much the currency is worth. We live in an economy now that when America sneezes, the whole world gets a cold, right? When we have an economic sneeze, when something happens here, it affects the entire world. But now we're learning that when something happens with the euro, when something happens with the yen, when something happens with the, what they use in China? What's the name of that? Is it the yen in China? Y'all sure? It's the Chinese yen. Okay, you're a CPA now, don't mess me up. Okay, the Chinese yen. So now we're learning that whatever happens in other places also affects us. We're in this global economy. Now let me ask you these questions. What is happening to people around the world? Just talk practically. What's happening to people's lives around the world right now in this economy? What's happening? Say again? Poverty? Jobless? Fear? Can't retire? Leon's been thinking about it for a while. Dependence on
the government.
Okay, dependence on governments? Shifting, okay? Uncertainty. Panic. Homelessness. Bankruptcy. Foreclosures. This economy is pressing in on us, pressing in on our society. And I listen to this stuff. It's not necessarily bad news to me. I listen to the news so that I can rejoice. When I listened to the news and I found out that new home sales just went down, hit the bottom, I found out that all these things are happening with everybody and their money. When I hear about these things, I rejoice because I made a decision not to live in this economy. I made a decision years ago not to live in this economy. I also it was not a prediction. Some people emailed me and said, Pastor, I heard the prediction last Sunday, so I hope it doesn't happen. But about 7-8 years ago, I made the prophecy that the middle class was going away. And I said to you, if you're a part of our church, I said, you've got to make a decision. Are you going to be wealthy or are you going to be poor? And I didn't have problems with anybody except religious people in the church. Religious people in my church that I pastored didn't want me to talk about money. They didn't want me to talk about wealth. Even though, and I said this to them, and it's a confusing statement, but you understand me and understand the kingdom, it's not confusing at all. I said to them, I don't believe money is the answer to all things. I just believe money is the answer to all things. That is not confusing. I don't believe money is everything, but I believe if you have some, you can do some things. You can go some places. And when you get there, you can do some things once you get there. I just believe that. I believe that our prayer life would change if we had some money. I believe our love and our marriages would change. I believe a lot of things would change. So we have this. Now, my last question. Now, this is going to be a big one. Okay. In our country and now around the world, because America believes in propagating this idea of democracy. So everywhere we go, we fight wars. And then we set up these countries like we're trying to do in Afghanistan, we're trying to do in Iraq. We want them to have democratic elections. We want people to be hired by the people. We want the people to choose their leaders all over the world. That's what America propagates, right? Am I doing any civic lesson? So we go to war. Besides the spoils of war, we want to turn every country into us. So right now, democracy is the best idea we have. Now my question to you is, what does democracy create around the world, economically speaking? Poverty, can we agree? Most people don't understand that. It creates poverty, it creates division, right? It creates classes, caste systems. What else does democracy create around? Now, okay, let me make sure, because this has been pushed out on the internet. I'm an American, and I love America, right? I'm American, I love America, but I don't like its system, because it ain't working. It's not working. I don't believe it's working for anybody. It doesn't even work for the people who come here looking for it to work for them. It doesn't work, right? Right? So democracy creates, in order for democracy to work, to work, you have to have the haves and the have-nots. Because you have to create these people who depend on the government. If everybody was wealthy in our country, how many people would vote in November? None of us would show up to vote. But because we either care about the health care bill, we care about, we care about a lot of different other things, we will go and we will vote. Because we believe the person we elect is going to answer this problem for us. Am I right about it? Okay, I'm still in the Bible. Just give me a minute. I'm just introducing the subject. People got their notebooks out in their Bibles. He ain't quoted now scripture. I understand. Okay, I understand. Just hang on. Okay, so now we have this thing called democracy that's creating havoc, creating haves, have-nots, caste systems, uppers, downers, people without, and getting rid of the middle class altogether. I believe that there's an entirely different system we can live in. That we can live in America, but not live by its wealth system. Okay, so we have 4 classes of people. We have the poor, we have the rich, we have the wealthy, and we have the transients. Poor people have nothing. Rich people, they're owned by their money. Wealthy people know that they're stewards of their money. And transient people are people who are creeping from one class to the other. So in America, the floodgates are open into the poor. So we have people leaving. There are a lot of wealthy people and rich people who are now filtering down to becoming poor. They're in transit. They're moving from one to the next. My hope is to increase, and I'll be honest with you, this series, if money upsets you, you're really going to be mad at me by the end of this series, right? I'm just letting you know right now. So if you're upset about it, but we can cure that. Maybe I should do this now. I can cure this. I can cure this. Because people who get upset when we start talking about money, they're really not upset. They're just really, in the best sense of the word, ignorant. I didn't call your name. I just said, they are ignorant. They just have ignorance in their life. They just don't know. And I had to help a brother. He said, I don't need any money. I don't like it when pastors talk about money and all that. And I said, no problem. You can prove that to all of us. He shouldn't have said it publicly. Because when he said it publicly, then I had to challenge him publicly. So I said, fine, if you don't need any money, we can solve this. Is this your pastor? He said, yes. I said, from now on, I want you to bring your whole paycheck to him. Not a tithe. I want you to bring it all. He said, why would I do that? I said, you just said you don't need any money. He said, well, I have to live. I have to eat. And I said, then you need money. Now, I said, what you really said is that you have a money ceiling. You got a money ceiling. And so for you, $24,000 a year, that's your ceiling. And in your mind, you don't think anybody who makes $25,000 a year, what are they going to do with all that money? To you. Am I right? You got your own ceiling. And someone else has a $500,000 ceiling.
Right.
Somebody else has $1 million ceiling.
Come on now.
And I'm honest with you, I got $1 billion ceiling right now. That's my ceiling. I met a man who was worth a couple $1 billion, and in my head, I thought, what are you going to do with all that money? And I hit my own ceiling. We all have one. I'm working on that one right now. I'm going to chisel that one away. Because you can do a whole lot with $2 billion. So I won't tell your neighbor, you can tell them. You can tell them. That just tell them, it don't matter what you say. Tell your neighbor, it doesn't matter what you say. I know you need some money. Okay, so quickly, let me give you a couple of scriptures here. It don't matter what you say. I don't believe a word of it. I know you need some money. And if they say they don't need any, just tell them to give you theirs. This philosophy of lordship, Genesis 2:15 through the 17th verse, says these words. Then the Lord God took, 15th verse to the 17th verse. Then the Lord God took, read it with me, took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to, that's his job, to tend and to keep it. Verse 16, and the Lord God saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but because the day you eat of this tree, you shall die. So here's the philosophy in the beginning. In the beginning are these words. You are free to eat from all these trees that I own and I sustain. These are not your trees. These is my trees. You don't make the fruit grow on them. You can't stop the fruit from growing on them. And you can't tell me what to do with the fruit that's growing on them. All you can do is eat from the tree as much as you want to eat. Anytime you want to eat, you can eat from these trees. Then I'm going to put one tree in the middle of these other trees, and that's my tree. These other trees, you can eat from them all you want, as much as you want. You have now access to everything without ownership. You have access to everything God has, but you don't own it. You can use it for your disposal. Well, I have to own it. Well, then that's going to be an issue. If you have to own it, it's going to become an issue. Because, okay. Psalm 24, the first verse. Let's hear God's philosophy. This is his philosophy. Because poor people chase money and they become poor. Rich people hoard their money. They protect it because they think there's not enough for everybody. So they can't even enjoy their money. Wealthy people invest their money. They get to enjoy it.
Amen. Yes, sir.
Rich people don't enjoy their money. They're scared you're going to get it. They're scared they're going to lose it. Right? So Psalm 24:1 says what? The world's. So we have dominion over the earth, but we do not own it. It's not ours to do what we want with it. It is under our stewardship. Does that make sense? The Kingdom Commonwealth idea of God is, Martin, everything on the earth is yours when you need it. When you need it, it's provided for you. When you don't need it, someone else can use it. Roger just said on the screen, the motorcycle was given to him not so he could have a motorcycle. But he could ride the motorcycle until it belonged to someone else.
That's good.
And when you have a philosophy like that, you're always going to have stuff. When you don't understand that when it's time, I talk to people and I talk to them about the tithe and the offering. And they say, I just can't give it right now. And I say to them, and God just can't give you anything else right now. Because he can't trust you with his stuff. You give your kid $5 to go to the grocery store. What you gonna get for $5? They ain't gonna get much. You can send him to the grocery store with $10. Just get me a loaf of bread and some milk. $10 bucks? What? Huh? Okay, no. No, that's $5 with the kind of milk you drink. I can't, with the milk I drink, I can't do that for no. Right, the milk I drink, I drink organic and it's $6-7 a gallon. I don't drink that stuff with all that in it and no. That stuff show up on your body. Let me back up. $10, a quality gallon of milk, and a loaf of bread. But the child goes to the store and doesn't spend the money on what you thought they should spend it, what you told them to spend it on. And they come back home with junk, cookies and cakes. You gonna give them any more money to go to the store for you? No. In the same way, God gives us stuff that belongs to him. And he expects us to be good stewards over it. And that's why, Matthew 25, I'm going to give them talents according to their abilities. 5, 2, and 1. We're simply stewards of it. Does that make sense at all? Yes. Turn to Exodus 7. Just a few more. I just want to give you a few scriptures to think about between now and Sunday. Exodus 7, 7th chapter, 1st verse through the 5th verse. This is God's idea. This is how God thinks. And so we better start thinking this way. My business, this church, your car, my car, the house I own that's paid for in my name is not my house. Is my house in the earth? Is my house in the earth? Is my car on the earth? Is my grass on the earth? Is my bank on the earth? And God says it's his. Now, if I get my attitude right, that's the difference in living in a $200,000 house and a $1 million house. When I know it's God's house, well, I don't need a $1 million house. You don't hit your ceiling, Ruthie. You don't hit your ceiling now. Why would I want to live in a $1 million house? To live in it. You know, there's a difference in how and where you sleep. There is a difference. Bernadette, stand up. What kind of car you buy? Huh? Infinity what? M35. What'd you have before that? Bravada. Who that made by? Who? Okay, let me ask you a question. That Bravada, when you were getting ready to pass somebody on the interstate and you mashed the gas, what happened? Not much. How long did it take it to get up? Okay, it took it a while. We're not going to argue about American products, right? Okay, in this new Infinity, when you get ready to pass an 18-wheeler, what you do? It just goes. You just put your foot on it. It don't it just go on around the car, right? There is a difference. There is a difference between, and I'm just coming right at you, right? There is a difference between a $90,000 house without a carport or a garage and a $1 million house with 5-car garage, heated floors, heaters in there, and air conditioning. There is a difference. You don't think there's a difference? Wait till February 2nd when it unsnowed 12 inches. There is a difference between on-street parking in front of your house and having a driveway with the heat coming through the cement where you don't have to shovel it. There is a difference. There is a difference between you telling your child to get a scholarship and in the next voice telling your child, go to school wherever you want.
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You mad at me? I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you for thinking that way. How could you be in this church and think that way?
Right. Come on, Pastor.
People look at me like, I can't believe you think that way. I can't believe he said that. I can't believe you think that way. Did I read the scripture? I need to read it. I need to read it. Stop fussing. Right? So Exodus 7:1. So the Lord said to Moses, See, I have made you as God to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. Keep reading. You shall, and Aaron your brother, read, and I will, and my, now listen to God. He says, I'm going to multiply my signs. I'm going to put Pharaoh in a noose. But read verse 4. But why? Pharaoh is not going to let my people go. I'm going to send you down there to tell him to let my people go.
Right.
But he ain't going to let my people go because I'm going to make his heart hard so he won't let my people go. Let me get this straight. You're going to send me down there to tell him to let us go. But you going to tell him not to let us go. Hold up, God. You're going to commission me and send me down there like a fool, telling him, let God's people go. But you're telling me before you send me that he ain't going to let us go. Let me get this straight. I would have argued too, but the next phrase tells me why. And the next phrase, but Pharaoh will not heed you. Why? So that I may lay my hand on Egypt and verse 5. There it is. That's why he did it. Who was Pharaoh? Think history, don't. Who was Pharaoh? What was the belief of Egypt? Pharaoh was God. He was the God of the earth. He was called the Lord, the owner of the known earth. God's problem with Pharaoh was not necessarily that he had his people, but that Pharaoh had an attitude that everything belonged to him. So God said, I'm going to send you down there, and I'm going to tell you to tell them to let my people go.
My God.
They're not going to let you go, but I'm going to keep showing him I own everything. Right. He don't own nothing. So watch God. 10 times God says, you don't own the flies, I do. You don't own the frogs. The frogs are mine. You don't own the river Nile. You say you're the God of the Nile. I'm going to turn it into blood. There ain't going to be nothing you can do to stop it. I own the snakes. I own the sky. Good Lord Almighty. I own the light, the sun. I'm going to tell it to be dark.
Yes, sir.
You ain't got no control over nothing. I am the Lord.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now let me talk to you for a minute, Pharaoh, before we go home. Not Pharaoh in Egypt. Pharaoh sitting right up in here. Pharaoh sitting right up in here. Them little $2 bills, them 2 dimes you holding together to keep them from God. And you think you controlling something. You ain't controlling nothing, Maybell. You ain't got nothing. It ain't nothing. It all belongs to God.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes God has to show you that you are not the Lord. You think you're making decisions over money, and God, you just got holes in your basket.
Glory.
Come on now.
Lord, have mercy. But when you just give it, okay, we're going home, right? Here's an economic conversation that you never saw. It's an economic, Commonwealth conversation. The rich young ruler. He came to Jesus. Jesus wasn't looking for him. And he said, how can I enter your kingdom? I heard you preach. I want to come in this kingdom. Now, he asked how to come in the kingdom.
Right.
Jesus said, keep the law. He said, I've kept every law since I was born. I honor my mother. I honor my father. I don't blaspheme. And Jesus said, okay, here's the test. If you want to enter my kingdom, in my kingdom, I own everything, including what you think you got. So I tell you what you do. Go sell everything you have and bring the money to Judas. Judas held the money for the bank of the poor. Sell everything you got, bring it to Judas. Rich young ruler walked away. Think economics. He walked away. Jesus says these words. It's virtually impossible. I need to sit down. I know. Virtually impossible. I love you, but you interrupted me. Virtually impossible for a man who has riches to enter the kingdom commonwealth. Because his riches belong to him. Now, okay, because you're not going to get this unless I read it to you. Okay. He says, now, it's hard for you to enter. Now, this is what happened. The rich young ruler walks away, staying in his own economic system. And Jesus starts talking. Listen, when Jesus heard these things, this is verse 22 of Luke 18. Died, and now the man's family won't let the pastor go buy the car now because they want it for themselves. They didn't think like their dad and grand. With Bill Winston, worth millions, and act like, hey, the man flew here on a $12 million plane. Hey, how you doing? And he says, that's not my plane. That's God's plane. I just used it to come see you. And I'm going to use it to go home and kiss my wife tonight instead of staying in a hotel. When it belongs to him, he can do with it what he wants. Pastor Martin, why do you need the fastest, biggest BMW? Why do you need a 12-cylinder with gas prices? Why do you need the limo with the refrigerator in the back? Somebody asked me. I said, because I done gave away 5 cars. How many cars you give away?
Glory.
Come on now. Come on, Pastor.
How many cars have you given away personally? Well, none, Pastor. Then why are you looking at my car?
Right.
Let me finish. How many house notes did you pay? How many people did you pay their rent so that they didn't have to move out? I'm talking about personally.
Glory. Yes, glory. Hallelujah.
How many parents are you paying for their bills every month?
Come on now.
How am I going to pay her parents and my parents' bills every month?
Come on, Pastor. Come on.
Buy cars for people, pay people's rent, and live in a duplex. How that going to happen?
Come on, Pastor.
May the Lord watch. Come on, y'all, stand up.
My God.
How's that going to happen? I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. Say this with me, Lord.
Lord,
everything I have,
everything I have,
it came from you.
it came from you.
It belongs to you.
It belongs to you.
It's all yours.
It's all yours.
The earth is yours. The kingdoms are yours. The dirt